All right, I've started the recording, and this is the July 3rd, 2018 Rook Community Meeting. And let's go ahead and start talking about milestone release 0.8. So there's two big things that I know of still for the milestone. So I think the first one, the one OSD per pod change, that is getting pretty close now. Is that correct, Travis?
Yes, thanks for pointing out the scenario for removing a device. I missed that one. So that's what I'm testing right now, and needs a couple of fixes for sure. It's not
Oh, it
just
didn't just work?
didn't just work, and it's not just a simple. Oh, it's just a few lines of code to look over to. It's pretty good orchestration that you put together there a while back. So yeah, so it's taking a little bit of work there, but um, anyway,
Let's not
it's
confuse complicated orchestration with good orchestration, Travis.
right. It's a good orchestration. Absolutely. It's I hope I was hoping it'd be done this morning. It's not quite there, but I'd really love to get it done today, and this is the last issue, so it's time to merge it. We've
And
got
that
all
is
sorts
the
of
last item of and the checklist for the pull request.
let's see, make sure officially that's true before I say that. But that was the last open issue I was looking into. 1698 takes a while to load. But yeah, that's the last one. That is the last checkbox too.
Great. That's awesome then. So there's not much left, but yeah, let me know if you have any questions about the removal flow, or how things should be orchestrated there.
Yeah, I'd like to talk actually after. We can talk after this meeting.
I've got
Details.
a meeting scheduled with Alex after this.
Or after
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
So we'll try to find each other this morning though.
sure.
Are
Sounds
you
good.
in Mountain Time now?
I am. Yep.
Oh, you're in the future. Okay, 1 hour in the future, right?
Yep.
All right, cool. Sounds good. Okay, so I think we're pretty well covered on that. I think we've done since this last meeting, the community meeting 2 weeks ago, we did a fairly focused effort on this pull request and tested upgrade and did a bunch of scenarios. So I'm feeling much more confident about it now, that we've done all that work.
Yeah, so the point where after this removal scenario is fixed, get it into master and get more people looking at it before we declare O.8.
Yeah, so I believe now, so that's a good segue here, actually. So the next item that we still have remaining is, so as part of the graduation process with the CNCF to go from a sandbox project to an incubation project, we are going to declare the Ceph types, the CRDs, to be beta now. And so what that means is it is a statement about the stability of the CRDs themselves. So any changes that go into those Ceph CRD types in the future will be made with a migration path and with backwards compatibility in mind. So we are saying that the Ceph CRDs are stable enough to declare them beta now. The other groups like Cockroach, Minio, and such, those are going to remain alpha. So it is only Ceph that we are moving to beta. So another part of that is that we are no longer declaring the project as a whole to have a status by itself. We have declared Rook itself as alpha for this entire time since we open sourced it, but we're going to do it on a API group level now, which makes more sense for tracking maturity of different portions of the project and have better granularity for tracking a status. So we'll remove the overall project status and track everything by API group now, by Ceph or Cockroach or whatever it may be. So
Is that the issue you created some days ago with the versioning changes for 0.8?
that is correct, Alex. 1832 here,
Oh,
which
yeah.
I'm in the thick of. So the unfortunate part about that, though, is that for completeness, this requires migration as well. So I'm in the midst of supporting. We have already supported the migration from the legacy Rook.io cluster type to the new Ceph cluster type. That's the one migration path that we have supported already, but we also have people that are on the Ceph Alpha cluster type, and that's going to be a migration path that we'll support as well to get it for beta clusters. So I just started that yesterday. It's not massive, and it's not incredibly complicated either, because we already did write all the migration to go from Rook, the Rook cluster type to Ceph cluster type. And the types are not drastically different. So that migration logic has already been written and tested. And so this is not a massive change, but it does, require a new migration path. And I'm working on that now. And it sounds like I'll probably be finished with that or ready to take it to master after.
Hey, Jared,
yes,
that's for people running out of master builds?
Yes, that's correct.
Why is that a supported migration scenario?
Because if we don't do that, we would break a lot of people's clusters that are out running, out in their environments now, and that's something that I personally am not comfortable with.
But people, setting precedents that if you're running out of master, that you'll be supported for upgrade is not a good thing either. Master is, it'll have intermediate changes.
The problem is that a lot of users kind of ignore that. A good amount of people on us were like, hey, something's broken. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's working on 0.7. We know master isn't too stable. And the only thing was switch to 0.7 to attack release and don't use master.
I'm just making a point about what guarantees we make about master builds. I don't think we're saying that anything that goes into master is releasable and will be carried forward in terms of a migration scenario or others.
In general, Bassam, I totally agree with you as well that master builds are not a general guarantee that they will be supported for migrations and upgrades and all that, or that anything will remain consistent in master builds. But for this particular scenario, I think that the cost to benefit ratio it makes sense to support this one.
So okay. Is it literally just changing the CRD type from alpha to beta?
That is the type change, yes. So there's migration logic that when the operator comes up and it sees that, oh, you've got the old Rook cluster type from 0.7 and before, it in place migrates that CRD to the new type and deletes the old CRD and does the bookkeeping aspects there. And that same similar logic just needs to be done as well for if it sees the old Ceph Alpha type and then just migrating that to the new beta type. So it's very, very similar logic that we're already doing for the Rook to Ceph cluster type migration.
But my question was, it's just the type name, not any of the contents, correct?
Yes, the alpha and beta Ceph cluster types are identical.
So can this be done with a really simple script, a conversion script for people that have deployed master? I mean, the code you add, any code you add to migration is going to be very short-lived, right? This is an intermediate build that people deployed.
Well, and also one thing to consider is the migration code that's already been written from the old types to what we have today is that there is some conversion there, some sort of business logic conversion that we need. And then moving from now to the beta types, it will be just a direct type copy. So it's really simple. So I think we would need to do the double conversion. Anyway,
I think I understand what Bassam means. Basically, the code we currently have in place to migrate 0.7 to 0.8 CRDs and everything else is only needed for 0.7 to 0.8, so only for version 0.8. If we move to 0.9, we normally would remove the code because we, at least as far as I'm informed, we don't really support upgrades from like 0.6 to 0.8, for example.
Correct.
So I think that's what I'm asking here, isn't it? Or
that's part of it. I'm just saying, traditionally any migration scenarios are from releasable builds, not from commit hashes in master. There's no way this project scales if we're going to support commit hash to commit hash migration.
Right. So, I don't think that we're making that promise or guarantee for the future, though. I believe that the way that this has been rolled out already, and needing to do another type change and supporting that. I feel like with the deployments we have out there that this in particular needs to be supported in some way.
So I'm sort of making a subjective observation here, but from long experience with the Ceph community in particular, anything you informally support, people think you formally support.
I agree.
A long history of doing, we used to do a stable build and an unstable build and a stable build. And obviously when people found issues with the unstable build, we sort of helped them and fixed them. And eventually it got to the point where people were just treating those unstable builds like they were stable builds, because our de facto behavior was guiding people more than what we officially said about what was supported. So I would kind of agree with Bassam on this, that even if it's easy to help people out who are running master builds, you don't want to set that expectation.
I mean, I think helping them on Slack or, making sure in the release notes, if, saying something, if you have master, then here's some ideas for how you can upgrade. But, in retrospect, I wish we would have talked about the beta types before we did the migration, and we didn't, but it does feel like to me like we should not do this.
I think providing some kind of script, kind of as you said, with helping them on Slack, kind of migrating from a master to a net tech release. Though I think we need to kind of do more than that. I think we should go as far as adding for a master at least, adding some kind of warning to the master docs. Because everyone clicking on the Rook.io website, on the docs link, is coming to Rook master docs. And so they are using master.
That's a very good point too. We should definitely warn people about deploying from master. Yeah.
Because I have a good amount of people that I'm helping every day, like, oh, I have this problem in master. And I'm always like, hey, if it's not working, I can't really help you out right now because it will take some time to fix it. Try to switch to 071. Where are the docs? Yeah,
I could see a compromise being that if we don't, we're kind of directing people to go to master, then I think Jared would argue that we should help them upgrade, and the cost here is simple. But this can't be the norm. We have to warn people not to deploy for master.
Yeah. We
will make no guarantees about master upgrades.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly the point with a change which happened where we what was it? For example, the mon count. The mon count was moved to a substructure, and people they had old manifests but more up-to-date images, and that's exactly one of the points where it's extremely hard to help people with master builds running, because you can't really tell them to go to every pod they have running and run Rook version in it, so you can see which is the bad one to put it like that. So, as you said, we definitely need to have a big warning there, because as I said, it's a kind of a pain to debug unless you have a reason to run master to put it like that. And on a second tier, the migration here. So,
yeah, and having the default docs point to the last stable release.
That would be better.
Yeah.
Or, just having a big red warning, on the master decks.
Yeah.
Something in the beginning.
That's a good point, too. We should do both.
I think Kubernetes had this, some time ago, where they had, a warning, this is master doc warning. Yeah. Jared wrote it down, pretty well, so.
We should do both. We should always go to the last release for docs. When people go to rook.io docs, and then the other thing is we should warn if people switch to master. I completely agree.
Yeah. I think I can take a look at how we generate the dock side and then see if we can just have like a toggle. And yeah.
So is it the general consensus here that we should not support this Ceph alpha to Ceph beta migration because it was never part of an official release?
That would be I would argue that should be the answer. I could see a compromise where we have been pointing people at master, whether implicitly or explicitly, pointing people at master or at least not warning them. And you could say, as an exception for this build, we'll help, and because the cost is small, we'll write a little migration thing, but we're not going to do that going forward.
Yeah, that sounds like a good compromise.
Yeah, sounds good.
So is it like a little migration thing as in like the operator doing that, or you're still talking about the scripts thing?
No, it's your proposal of the operator doing it. I'm saying if our current behavior is that we're letting people install master and they feel like that's a more stable release because we're not warning them and we're sending the docs to master and everything else, then we should fix that. We should maybe have the operator do the upgrade because it's cheap right now, and then going forward, set the the norm to be master is unstable, and we're not going to do any upgrades for master.
Okay,
that would be the compromise.
Yeah,
right.
The master also as the images we upload are just a temporary snapshot kind of.
So I think that I'm comfortable with that, given that we are also going to, have some sort of more emphasis or steering people away from using master. I think with basically the default approach of everyone installing master by default has gotten us into the situation, and steering away from that would definitely help us out. And I think if we didn't support this migration, there would be a lot of chaos to clean up from the community on Slack, and people's clusters no longer working. All right, let's move on then. So the upgrade testing pass, we've kind of done that with the 1OSD per pod, but we'll need to, in master, we will need to do that for, our RC, our release candidate builds before we go ahead and fork for the 0.8 release. But Travis and I will probably both do that independently.
Do we have a checklist for like release criteria for 0.8 in terms of testing?
I don't know if we have a collection of all that. Travis, do you know?
Well, I think the approach has been to step through all of the examples in the documentation and run all the samples, YAMLs, and scenarios. I don't know that we have a specific checklist.
Yeah, we should probably follow up on that.
Didn't we have those long something running tests?
Yeah, we used to. Those haven't been run since before the last release. I think we need more resources to run those again.
Yeah, I don't know what the status of those even is, honestly.
Yeah, they haven't been run for so long. They need some work, I'm sure.
Yeah, that seems like a priority for 0.9 to me. We beef up the integration testing, and looks like a vulnerability right now, honestly.
The whole testing part is also one of the things I would like to add to 0.9. If we improve our already existing testing, and then for what is already kind of happening, decreasing also build time again.
And from there's the coding and automation part, and then there's the actual resources wherever this runs. And I'm sure we can pony up resources in a number of places. To do this, but we kind of need We kind of need an owner for the integration testing and getting it resurrected.
Yeah, we haven't had a QA resource or anyone focused on quality for a while now, which is definitely a detriment to the project.
Yeah, no one focused on quality, but look at the pull requests. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely been looking on my side, and working on it. Even this, I think each provider will need its own QA representative to make sure that we're stable. So anyway,
Yeah, let's take that as a 0.9 theme.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, got it. All right, so let's just get through the tickets we have open in the milestone, and ones that we haven't already talked about. So we talked about the versioning and migration and stuff. Now so the integration tests to kind of make them a little bit more reliable when machines or instances are getting reused for 2 runs in a row. I had wanted to start that, but I need to focus on migration or get other things to the Jedi 8 release. So I'm not sure if this is necessarily a blocker for the release itself, honestly.
Yeah,
That's something that could be, go and master afterwards anyways, because it's really the detriment is really where it really hurts us is on pull requests and getting things into master. It's not a release focus itself, honestly.
Mm-hmm. It's not the production code path.
Alex, what's the status of this ticket here?
I have to finally get around to test it. I haven't gotten to it yet.
Okay, and we already talked about the upgrade guide. We already talked about 1 SD per device. And Travis, can you get us up to speed on OpenShift stuff for 0.8?
Yeah, the PR is updated. It's ready for final review. I got back on the 1 SD per pod PR now, so that's PR's just sitting there. But yeah, Jared, if you could review that, or let's see who else. Yeah, I'll ping a couple people to get a review on that, and we'll get that in.
I think someone already commented on it again and said that at least for him it's not working. I already commented again and asked him for logs of the operator, so we can really see what happened.
Well, in that comment, he said he tested on master instead of from the
PR.
PR.
Really?
So,
are you sure? He just commented like 5 minutes ago, or 10 minutes.
Oh, I didn't see that one then.
18.9, like 20 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Tested 3 OpenShift compatible. Yeah.
Okay, so I need to look at that then.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think there's a couple of tickets here, Travis, that are in the project but not in the milestone. Are there any of these that are need to be in the milestone itself?
Mon names, no, that could wait. Let's see, what are the other ones? Rook partitions disappearing. Was that in the early list?
No.
That seems like a significant issue to understand. 1797.
Yeah, I added that because we should make sure that this doesn't happen with 0.8 anymore. Because I think they lost like 1 or 2 nodes, the whole or most OSDs, and that's not acceptable to put it like that. Even though Rook is alpha in that regard.
Yeah.
Because the partitions were there previously, but yeah.
So is this like do we know what the source of that regression was, or do we expect it to be fixed now, or what?
Oh, I'm not sure.
I don't think we understand if it might have. It probably hasn't been fixed that I know of, or perhaps the 1 OSD per pod would affect it, but I think we need to understand it.
We need to see. We need to see how we can even reproduce it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll be a challenge, I think. I think they said that their node restarted. They're not sure why, and then partitions disappeared, which I don't know. Rook doesn't cause partitions to disappear, or shouldn't. So needs more attention.
My gut feel on this one is that as we're we're trying to converge on a milestone, and we're driving towards a set list of items that we've agreed upon, that if we don't have a lot to go on this one, or we don't have many reports of it, or it seems like a difficult scenario to reproduce or things like that, that I would not hold the release specifically for this.
Yeah, and we can put it in a dot release after we do
I
understand.
agree. And we can do a .81 if this looks as severe as it sounds.
Yeah, I don't think we have not heard any other instances of this, correct?
I don't think so.
One environment, one user. Okay, yeah, I would not hold 0.8.0 on this. Okay. All right, so let's move back to the agenda doc. Okay, so we'll move on.
I actually had a question to Caitlin and anybody else from the Nexenta team. Is there an update on status of Nexenta support? I know you guys have been working on it. Caitlin, you there, or anybody else from Nexenta?
Well, he unmuted himself just a few seconds ago.
I did. Okay. I was looking for the control to do that. We've been fighting a few other bugs. So I've been just kind of monitoring stuff and waiting for the rest of the team to be available to work on this stuff. So we're kind of treading water right now.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Caitlin, whenever you all start making progress on that, feel free to loop us in, or, ask questions, and, we'll be happy to engage with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Caitlin. Okay, so as we talked about with the graduating from a sandbox CNCF project to an incubation project, part of that is kind of getting an understanding of our production users, or users that have deployed Rook to production, and having testimonials from them. So I don't know if this call is pretty developer focused. So I don't know if that's we're going to really find any production users on this call necessarily that aren't contributors and developers, but that's something that
Come on.
you're a developer. Yeah, but I mean, your cluster is pretty
the longest running as far as I know.
Exactly, which you're a user that meets that criteria, but I already know about you. So
we should definitely ask Tis if you haven't yet.
Yeah. I have a list of people that I'm already in communication with, and
fine.
I'm to address this, I want to send out a survey, or just a question, to the announcements and general channel to track down some more users that may be able to tell us about their production scenario.
Yeah, and Jared, just a small comment on this one. I would sort them by companies that are running not just production environments, but actually their business depends on a cluster that has Rook in it, and maybe even a size estimate or a number of nodes estimate or something.
Right.
Jared, you did a survey about like that a couple months ago, right?
Yep. Yeah, I had those data points from just before KubeCon Denmark.
Hey guys, I'd also be curious to find out like what percentage of like their storage in general is Rook versus other things. Because it's good to know like the importance of it, but like if there's any other types of storage in there too, and it's a small percentage of it, it makes it insignificant in my opinion. So it's just good to know that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Tony, that's a good point. That was part of the survey that we had done before KubeCon Europe, was about what the size and scope of their deployments are too. So we captured some of that. I don't think we captured what other non-Rook deployment information they have though. Okay, so an important topic here as the community continues to grow is how support can be provided for the community. There's no question that Alexander has done an enormous job that's been very beneficial to the community for providing support and helping out users with questions, during basically all hours. So, Alex has been an absolute rock star hero on that front, and we're really, really grateful for all of his work. But that doesn't scale when Alexander is the main go-to person, and there's definitely instances of users that just come directly to Alex as opposed to the community, which further increases his burden. And it doesn't necessarily, that certainly doesn't help scale either. So I wanted to open the floor here to see if we have any ideas of how we can support the community better with the very limited resources we have. So Travis, is there any, like, as the Red Hat guys have become more on board with Ceph in a containerized cloud native environment with Rook, is there more resources from Red Hat to be able to help out with community issues and support?
Not that I've found it specifically around this. I think we've definitely been, when a specific question comes up, or tag someone who's in the community, like Dan has been answering a bunch of questions, and or devs on the PRs, but I've definitely tried to stay on top of it too and tag people. But other than that, yeah, your question about other resources, that's a good question to see what we can push for more there.
Yeah, and I wonder if the other thought I had here is, like, if part of the governance of the project includes bringing in people that can help not only contribute to code, but contribute to helping the community around the code. Mm-hmm. I've seen other projects that have done similar things.
So to be like that, my biggest issue here is more that people directly message me a good amount of times, and it's like, hey, don't message me directly, please use the general chat, because, well, I'm not the only one that's helping. But
and Alex, that is a perfectly acceptable response to give, in my opinion. If somebody pings you directly, you can politely redirect them to the general channel. That's perfectly acceptable. There's no obligation to respond on a one-on-one side chat, especially because the support that is given to that user can be beneficial to other users as well. So it's actually a detriment to the community as a whole to to do support on a one-on-one channel that nobody else gets to benefit from.
So what would you guys think of, rather than just doing it all over Slack, having some people just open issues, right? So that way you can track the solutions, because searching Slack is kind of difficult for certain problems. And I think it rolls over, like it only keeps like 10,000 messages or something like that. So
we still haven't.
We should fix that. Travis, are you fixing that?
So yeah, I've emailed. I want to forget his name right now, but
Chris A.
Chris.
Yeah, Chris, and he said he was going to push for that, and I'll ping him again because it doesn't sound like it's going through yet.
Yeah, but I mean,
searching. Yeah, I get your point, Tony. For
if it's an issue, right, then it'll show up in Google. So it just seems more useful.
Oh yeah, Tony, I definitely agree with you, man. That having things in GitHub issues makes a lot of sense in a lot of circumstances. I view Slack as a quick back and forth. Hey, what's this issue I see here? Can you help me out with it? And kind of doing something quickly back and forth. But if it's a a systemic issue or a bug or something that needs to be tracked better, and especially for archival or future help as well, then a GitHub issue makes a lot of sense. So we can probably steer more things towards issues than we have so far. That makes plenty of sense to me.
Makes sense.
And there's Tony, just a real quick thing that's Google searches and having those things like Rook issues come up. The only thing that's really frustrating for me is that when I have an error message that I've seen and I do a Google search and the only result is the Rook issue.
Yeah.
go. I hate
it's like,
that.
the
The only Google search result is the Rook issue that we've opened on it. So that doesn't help me at all try to find a solution.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but yeah, for opening things to GitHub, I think is great. So Alex, feel free to steer people more towards GitHub issues as well.
I'll look into either myself creating a few more issues if you have, like, let's say, the third person having a problem, or even just a redirect issue.
Yeah, I mean that also helps people like resurrect old issues too, right? Like no one's gonna like comment on a Slack thread from 6 months ago, whereas an issue
They can't because let me check. We're on like 60K messages already.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Either way, yeah, it's rolling over. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Alex, do feel free to you don't have to engage full support questions in one-on-one channels. Just redirect to general, and I think that probably as a whole that the community and some of us can pitch in more. So feel free to, you don't have to respond to everything immediately. I would say if you're especially if you're overburdened, that me or Travis or some of the Red Hat guys or other community members as well can get to the answer, maybe not right away, but eventually. I think the community can support itself still pretty well.
And perhaps by some of us not jumping in immediately, other members of the community can start to help each other more too. If we're not, there's an effect there that if people see us jumping in immediately, they'll just expect us to all the time.
So, or they haven't give them a chance to step in as well. Rohan, do you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I had my hand raised. I think like mailing list will be better than Slack, because whenever I search for some issues, I get a direct to mailing list logs. So that can be one thing.
Yeah, we don't use the mailing list much.
Yeah, there can be a separate support mailing list.
I'm with Rohan on that one. I love mailing lists. I think people are embracing Slack a little too hard.
Yeah, but it's just not as fast as at least for it's faster to create an issue then, because if you create the issue, you get the template, which is the next point kind of. The people have the template where they have to fill it out, or should fill out, where we directly have kind of all the information, are your root versions on something and this kernel and stuff like that, so that we can kind of instantly begin looking if it's already known or something.
Well, I mean, like how no one's just staring at Slack though, right? The whole time, like immediately answering someone's question. There's still a delay there, right? I mean, even if you get an email in your inbox, like I would say the response times are comparable through a mailing list and Slack. It may be like people wouldn't formulate the questions the same way, right, on Slack or a mailing list. But I think if you use email, it makes you kind of write more, right? Like it's not just a quick, like terse question with no context. Like in an email, people kind of fill it out, right? And then your responses are actually a little more thought out too, and then it's archived. So it shows up in Google, right, which is important. But yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting anyone to like change the Rook community culture to this. I'm just giving the benefits like Rohan was mentioning.
I'd say that people are going to come in on different channels. We should probably just have like a flow where if something looks like an issue, it should be an issue in GitHub. Whether it comes on a mailing list or it comes on Slack or it comes, however, maybe we should direct people to create issues in GitHub.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was the plan.
Yeah, I think we all are in agreement on that one. Another issue or another item that Alex had brought up is that with the issue template we have, sometimes it is not used by the user, and I think Alex was curious if there was any sort of consensus amongst the community of if it's worth trying to start troubleshooting those issues without that information, or that should be more of a, kind of a requirement for the user to provide that information so that they can be more effectively helped. Does anyone have strong opinions on that?
Can you rephrase that? Sorry, I think I didn't get all that.
Maybe can I?
Sure.
So basically, the question is, if, for example, a user opens an issue, but he doesn't fill out the template. And the question is, should we already begin looking at, troubleshooting the possible problem he has without the information, for example, which Rook version and stuff like that? Because it's kind of like, if somebody opens an issue like that, it's most of the time like, yeah, hey, can you please fill out the template so we get the information, at least from my side. Because if we don't have that information, we are not too effective with troubleshooting. That's the question, how do we react with that? If we are, directly helping them, trying to help them, or if you go like, please fill out the template, or at least give us the environment information so we can look better. What's the problem?
Why would they not fill out
that
the
was
template?
a requirement.
Why would they not fill out the template? Like they remove the sections?
There are people. We're all humans, to put it like that.
No, but that's what I'm asking. Is it?
It's not to come yet, but it's, there are just a few people creating issues and, removing the template.
Yes, Tom, the answer is yes. The template shows up there and they just delete it and put their own stuff in.
And just gently ask them to, update the issue. And
yeah, but that's basically what I'm asking. If we just point them, hey, please fill out the template, or if we already go, do you think it could be this issue or something? Like already troubleshoot.
I think that's a total waste of time trying to troubleshoot something without information, right? I mean, that like any scalable support organization in a larger company wouldn't even like work on a case if they didn't have certain information. I mean, you can do that when the community is this big, right? But as it grows, it just begins to waste your time. You don't get your actual work done. So people need to give the relevant information that you need to troubleshoot an issue. And they need to work with you. They can't just expect like Alex to just figure it out for them, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I think we have agreement on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to bring up we had someone from the community suggest a Luxio support, which I am not familiar with at all, and I was just wondering if anybody already had an opinion on that or knew much about that particular storage provider. I'm not sure exactly.
I know a little about it, but I don't. Somebody wanted to add support for it? Is that what they're asking, or?
Yeah, they're asking, has anyone tried to implement an operator, for Luxio? It sounds like that they would like to see support for it, but I don't necessarily know what the full motivation is.
I see.
Yeah, I was just throwing this out in case anybody already had a well-formed opinion.
I mean, if they want to write it, are they asking for like someone else to do it?
I'm not sure.
He wrote, quoting, "If not, I'm very eager to contribute on the subject."
That would be great.
Yeah, just have them do it.
On a similar topic, I think the HDFS support came up too in a similar vein.
Bassam, is that something that we need to be actively following up on right now?
Yeah, I think so. I think I forwarded you some email about it. We should follow up.
Okay, that sounds good then. Sure. All right, and I think this came in on the mailing list as well, and that sounds like a good place to discuss that too, so we can respond to that there.
Yeah, in the first message he wrote that, could you quickly switch back? That he posted it to the dev forum, so mailing list, and that he's just posting it here again. If you read the message,
So who's subscribed to the Rook dev forum? And
I got the mail. I didn't have time to reply because mail is, as Tony kind of said, you're replying longer. So
okay.
I think basically the core sort of part of the community that comes to the community meetings is basically the substantial part of the dev mailing list as well.
Okay.
All right, so I think that that was all that I had written down here, and we've got some action items here as well that we need to follow up on. I'd say that the whole topic about warnings about deploying to master and having master examples potentially referencing the last release. I think that might be. That's important in master itself. I think I'm not sure if that has direct impact on being in the 0.8 branch, but this is definitely something that needs to be followed up on soon, so that we don't get into more circumstances where we're having to do support or any sort of things for master builds.
Yeah, we could put that in master right after the 0.8 release, even, right?
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
To use 0.8 and not master.
And now this release criteria and checklist, though, that is for 0.8 to make sure that we have all our boxes checked for 0.8. So we should take a stab at that before we, do our RC build.
Mm-hmm.
So Travis, maybe you and I can both follow up on that together.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Independently and then merge.
Oh, sorry for yelling there. All right, and then this is 0.9. We already have declared that. Okay, so is there anything else that anybody wanted to bring up today? Okay. Then with that, I think that we can go ahead and disperse then. Thank you, everybody, for participating today.
Have a good day.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.